What's her name? And she seems to be doing good on the chat.
Is, I think, going to be a
So
very
that's cool.
harsh and unpleasant kind of business. And will, I think, require an extremely harsh and unpleasant kind of man to see to it.
Alright.
Couch Co-op. Couch Co-op. Couch Co-op.
Hello, Couch Co-opers, Couch Potatoes, and Couch Codependents. This is the Couch Co-op Show. I'm Ian, and joining me tonight is the crew. We got Jared,
Hello, people.
we got Dave,
Hey, hairier than normal.
and Aaron.
Everybody, Harry as well. Hey,
I want to remind you all to like and subscribe and check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Couch Co-op Show. It's all one word.
no hyphen.
Woo! Let's get to the show. How's everybody?
Doing
Very
great.
good.
Hey,
Very good indeed.
it's Monday.
Yeah,
Monday. It just
I've got
bleeds
cold
in.
here.
Just bleeds
it
in.
I know.
does, doesn't it?
I have this week off, so I don't care.
Yeah.
Lucky.
I work from home, so I spend like most of my days in this office.
Lots of
Oh,
days
man.
gone.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, a video game pun.
Ha.
It wasn't very punny.
It wasn't.
But it was accurate, though.
Yeah, I mean, I spend my days in this room. Well,
Yep.
and I was editing video today, and then at lunchtime, Bill and I got on and played some video games, and then
Nice.
he got off because he's still sick. Hey, Bill.
You
Oh.
say that plural. You say that
Yeah.
plural. Video games.
Well,
I'm
I
sure
just- I
there's
just
only
say it.
one game that
Just
you were
one.
playing.
Yeah, just one game.
Got to get your daily quests in, haven't you?
Gotta get my
Yeah.
well, yeah,
Your
you know,
bounties.
my bounties and
Yeah.
stuff. But
Gonna do your
and then work.
exotic quests.
Well, I was also watching the doc play his games, so it's kind of two
Oh,
games.
multitasking.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got multiple screens here. Anyway, yeah, so that was my Mondays. So I guess it's a
Nice.
little bit of work. Weekends are video games, and then some work comes into the room, and then it leaves.
Yep.
It's someday. That's all it is. It seems like nowadays. Someday.
Well, as some of us know, Jared and I, we have new consoles. Thus
Yeah, we do.
signifying the end of the last console generation.
But has the
Right.
next generation really began? Considering there's a few games, but there's not. It's the weirdest launch I've ever seen. Where
Yeah.
there's normally there'd be like 5 to 10 exclusives for whatever the new system was, or
Right.
at least at least 2 or 3 that were like big AAA games that showed off system like sellers basically.
It's
There's
funny that one of the only PlayStation 5 like truly PlayStation 5 exclusives is a PS3 exclusive.
Yeah. Or one that comes pre-installed on your system.
Right.
Right.
Hey, that's like a pack-in. That's like Super Mario Brothers and
Yeah.
Duck Hunt.
Yeah. When was the last time we saw a pack-in?
Not only that,
Yeah.
but a really
Not
good
very
pack-in.
often.
Yeah. Other than like,
I'm just saying because I remember buying the PlayStation 2 on release day, and it was like, oh, do I get Dead or Alive? Do I get MechWarrior? Do I get SSX? There were
Yeah.
a couple of games that weren't out for anything else at that time
Right.
that really showed kind of what the system could do, and I'm sure there are a few games, but there's nothing.
Oh yeah, I mean Spider-Man PS5 versus the PS4 version is night and day. Like the whole ray tracing thing is phenomenal. Like that totally shows the difference. You should not play it on PS4 in my opinion. But
I'm excited to buy one.
Me too.
When I eventually get the chance. I have the money. It's just
gotta find one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
got
got
to
some
find one,
money
and I don't
aside.
really feel like paying $1,000. So
even then, the
Mm.
people that do get them, how many? What do you think the percentage is for people that are actually ready when it comes to the TV they have?
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Honestly, not really.
Yeah, I mean, to get the full potential out of the system is what I'm talking about. Not just like playing on whatever TV you have, but having
Right.
the 4K, 120 hertz, all that stuff running through has to be
Still
on
gonna
like a
look better.
brand new TV.
It's
Well,
still gonna
yeah.
look a lot better on a regular 4K, TV.
Yes, it does.
Right.
So it's not like you need. That's kind of always been the case.
Yeah.
It always takes a year or two for people to start buying up the TVs that are needed.
Yeah, I've had a
Needed,
PlayStation 5
wanted.
in my cart like 3 or 4 times,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that after that I was just like, screw you guys, I'm sick of playing this stupid Amazon Walmart game where it's like you can put it in your cart and then it's gone.
You got to be faster
Right.
than a computer, Dave.
Oh, I know. It doesn't happen at my age anymore.
Anyway, so we're not talking about the future. We're talking about the past. We're talking about the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, the Wii U, the Switch.
Let's face it, we're not talking much about the Xbox One because I don't think any of
Not
us
really.
had one or had much experience with one.
Well, that's
You're
a gen-
probably the
right.
Yeah.
But it's the
Game Pass.
generation we're talking about.
Yeah.
And this will be, and I've so we're talking about the top 5, our top 5 games of the generation.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be your favorite games, just like a game that you think encompasses what this generation was about. And I kind of call this the Cyberpunk Memorial List, since Cyberpunk comes out in 4 days. We will not have played it. It obviously launches in this generation. Its next generation version doesn't come out until next year. So this is the Cyberpunk 2077 Memorial List. You guys you guys kind of talked how some of you thought it was a little bit difficult. Jared, I think you mentioned it was a little difficult to put this list together. Oh,
yeah, I was thinking of games that were like my favorite of the generation. Then I kind of switched pages, like games that
Yeah.
really set the pace, kind of for how things are now.
I kind of went the same way. It's not there's at least one game on my list that I think everyone would agree is actually kind of a stinker. But I think it is important as a game of the generation to
And then
kinda-
and then for Aaron, it's just the 5 games he played this past generation.
Hey, fight me. No. So initially I did do top 5 favorites. I actually had more than 5, but then I didn't realize it was just going to be about games at that time. And half the games I put on my list are actually like stuff that due to past technology, has not been able to be done until this technology. So, and I feel like some people had a lot to prove with the new tech, so they put a lot more new little goodies in there. That's a couple things on my list on that one. But there's also I also based off of how powerful the graphics were and how much more details they put in versus the last generation, and just kind of flowed through in a sense. It was kind of a dead giveaway on some of these ones, why they are what they are.
I also made sure they're games I like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every one of them I love.
I didn't.
That's all right.
All right.
Yes.
Well, let's get to it then. Who wants to start off with number 5?
I'm going to start off with. Well, I thought about doing Grand Theft Auto 5 with its online and all the rest of it, but
And that
then
it still makes more money than any other game in the history of video games.
yeah, and all the rest of it, and it does.
That's true.
But that was kind of available on the 360, so I kind of went with Red Dead Redemption 2 instead, because that game kind of graphically it was amazing, and I actually once you got into the story and the wonder in between places, I really enjoyed it. And I thought it definitely pushed what a video game can be.
Well,
I wouldn't say, it reminded me a lot of like Death Stranding when we were talking about that in the previous episode. a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2 was just traveling around the map.
Yeah, that is. But one thing that I almost put that game on my list just for how amazing the details of the world were. Like just wandering around was a game in itself, where you could just kind of wander around, enjoy the environment, and the environment had its own kind of storytelling that you could just kind of see how the world lived in that game.
One
And
of
it
Yeah,
was
it definitely
really,
felt
really
like a
impressive.
very complete world with like the side quests or just the people you met. You know, it didn't suffer from that. Oh, I've heard this speech 5 times before.
I think
Yeah.
it also lends in a different way with Rockstar being shepherding in this, like, this generation was way more conscious of crunch. And I think Rockstar and Red Dead Redemption obviously took a lot of flack for that, and it's not a positive thing, but it's a notable thing of this generation that I think that game is also guilty of.
Yeah, it's also a notable game because it came on 2 discs.
Yeah,
You
Oh,
know,
it did.
that was
That,
a
and that
massive
was
game.
people forget how big
definitely sounds
that
like a
game
beat.
was, and then it had the download and all the rest of it.
Oh,
That's the only thing I'm not looking forward to in the next generation. Is it's like, you know, you got a game like that that's 150 gig, 200 gig, and it's kind of
Digital, baby.
Yeah, games are getting huge, no doubt there, and they're
Oh,
going to get
they're getting
bigger and
beastly.
more
Well,
bloated.
you've got digital. It's not that that's the problem. It's the hard drive you're putting it on. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
if it's disc or download.
Right.
I don't think they're gonna be crossing 600 gigs for a game for a while.
True, but you
Wow.
want more than one game on your system.
I think
Having
within
5 or 6
Or you
games.
could delete it.
within a year we're going to have one over 200 easy.
We already do have Call of Duty.
Yeah,
Yep.
Call of
that's
Duty.
true.
Yeah.
Okay, that is over 200. Okay.
Call of
Oh,
Oh, we've
Duty's
already hit it.
entered its middle-age spread. It's just getting wider and wider and bigger.
But that's
and
if
bigger.
you install the entire thing. I think they finally broke it up between online and campaign.
Yeah,
but
I've heard the new
That was
Medal
smart.
of Honor VR game is going to be like 196 gigabytes.
Oh,
So it's
ah,
pretty big.
Jesus
100
Christ.
that's by
some,
Respawn
yeah.
though. That should be interesting.
Yeah.
But-
So,
That's
Alright,
gonna be a
but
big
anyway-
beast.
Who's
Anyway,
Red Dead?
Red
Red
Dead
Dead
was
2.
definitely a marker on to the next generation, and kind of like probably one of the high watermarks of this generation.
Okay.
At least graphically, even if you didn't care for its storytelling
Right.
and size.
Right.
You just
Mm.
discussed.
Yeah, no doubt.
Aaron, Jared, who wants to go next?
I think I got this one. So honestly, my number 5 on this one, it was kind of a hard one to put on, but not fully because it's a killer. I'd say Rocket League. Rocket League is definitely a game of
Ooh.
our generation, just
Yeah.
because it's so easy to get into. Anybody can literally pick up the controller and play that. And on top of that, it's multi-platform. Not a lot of games are like that. I mean, there are some, but this one did such a good job. They made so much money. They made it free instantly after making as much money as they did.
It's the test case for that, for a game being given for free right at launch. They were like the
Yeah.
pilot with PlayStation Plus with that.
I didn't actually
Yes.
think of that game, but that is a definite worthy contender.
Aaron, you
I
actually
need
stole
to
one of
try this.
mine. It's earlier. It comes later on in my list, but I did pick it. I do think that game is a game of the generation. It's they piloted cross-platform play and then had to shut it down.
Yeah.
Because I mean they were ready. They did a lot of things. It was a huge. I agree, 100%. That, and we played so. I mean, if you look at our
God.
I
hours in
think
that
we all
game,
platinumed
we all
it,
platinumed it.
We all did.
I have like
Sure.
300 some hours in that game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good
That's
choice,
definitely
Aaron.
one-
Good choice,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jared.
Thank you.
My number 5 is Titanfall 2.
Ooh, that's a good
And
one.
why
I didn't think about that one.
is because it's a model for how first-person shooters feel now. And I think it was a really good starting point for developers to figure out fine-tuning the sliding, even wall running in a lot of different games. They actually
Oh.
really just perfected it.
They really
Yeah,
did.
that was a weird game because just didn't seem to get that much traction,
Well,
really.
it
for-
launched between Call of Duty and Battlefield. Like the week in between those two
Yeah.
games, it just
and
got.
it's like much better than both of them,
Yeah.
in my humble opinion.
Oh,
But-
totally better than.
You know, it offered something new, and the story is actually really good, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But
the
really
single
good building
player is
blocks.
actually is an excellent standalone game without the multiplayer, and the multiplayer obviously is dang good too.
Yeah, I didn't play as much of it as Dave and Ian, but I played through the story and played a little bit of multiplayer. And now, as time goes by, you can see all the big players are putting the same kind of feeling into it because it just felt so perfect. As I kind of mentioned earlier, it's really good building blocks for other developers to base their controls off of.
Yeah, I played a lot of that multiplayer.
Yeah, that game is fantastic.
Great game.
Yep.
All right. My number 5, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, is Death Stranding. I don't need to talk
good
more
one,
about how
too.
awesome that game is, but I do think the game was something new. It showed that Hideo Kojima was a legitimate game designer, not just within Metal Gear. And I don't know. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like it before.
Yep.
And I think
I also thought it did a really good job of bringing big name actors into the video game, but they weren't distracting just because they were the face and the name. You know, they actually had something to say, and they play. You know, it worked really well with his narrative kind of storytelling.
plus all the hype leading up to the game, and everyone was thinking, oh, this game's just going to get delayed. It's going to be late. And the game hit right on time. It just, like, you kind of need those, like, big artsy directors,
Yep.
Like,
And
you know what I mean? So, like, it's kind of cool to have that big artsy, AAA artsy video game developer.
And I can also see why some people didn't like that game as well. You
Oh,
know,
for
it's
sure.
not. It isn't necessarily for everyone, but we all really enjoyed it.
But I think it's an important game. Oh, and as we talked about,
Yes.
the whole aspect of connecting with other people, even though you're not really playing with them, that whole thing, I hope that makes a big, like, I hope
Yeah,
that
that persistent world was
moves
fantastic.
forward in a way. Like, I think those are big ideas there that it's an important game, I think. It'll probably end up getting forgotten. I hope it doesn't. But I think it did some really cool things that only this,
I'll,
Go ahead.
I'll load it up on my birthday. I want my cake.
Which I believe is this week, right?
It's coming
No,
up.
it's the 22nd, so we
22nd.
still got a
Oh,
while.
God. I thought for some reason it was the 12th. My bad.
You better
Well, there was a
cancel,
2
you
in
better
it.
cancel the stripogram, Aaron.
Yeah.
Send her home and
Put your
make sure she
pants
gives my
back
money
on,
back,
Aaron.
Jared.
Her.
Just don't forget to reschedule, okay?
Yes. I mean, come on. I can't promise that. She was very bitchy the first time around. I'll try, but no promises.
All right, Dave, how
Dave,
about
number
number 4, huh?
Which one should I go for? I'm going to go for the one that isn't a video game on my list.
What? Oh,
You'll like this.
Huh?
Oh, you like this one. You probably guess what it is. But anything on PlayStation VR.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it was the first time that VR actually became this generation, and the same on the PC, where VR actually kind of broke through to the mainstream somewhat. I don't think it had quite the success, and no one's really quite got a killer app for it, but they've come close. So like Farpoint VR and some of the driving games and Eve Valkyrie, and I'd be interested to play Star Wars Squadrons as well in VR.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's great in VR.
I feel like that is
Nice.
those space simulators are where the VR should really shine.
Well, anything that has to deal with flight, because using just a stationary screen where you look right in front of you, that's not really efficient, because being able to look up at the different windows that you have, even in cars,
Yeah, the
is-
racing games were the same, being able to look
Yeah,
where you're going,
it,
kind
it
of
feels
thing.
a lot more natural and pleasant.
So yeah, although it's not a video game, I thought that was an important.
It is.
It was definitely
important.
something that pushed gaming forward.
for sure. That was definitely something of this generation, and I
Yes.
totally didn't even think about it. I totally just because I feel for me personally, it's faded a bit. I'm not like super.
No,
on it.
I would totally agree with you that I don't feel it's lived up to its potential and it's faded a little bit. But I also it was a very big deal, and like this generation is the first generation where you've actually had games that were
Yeah, it didn't
that
feel like
made
And this looked good.
it didn't feel
it
like
wasn't
a
a
gimmick.
novelty.
Yeah, it didn't feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, oh, this could happen. We just need to refine this, make it
Well,
easier.
even like a lot of games that you could play in VR, you could just play as a regular video game too. So
Oh,
you
Yeah.
totally.
know,
It's-
they both felt completely different, like they were different experiences.
It's funny
But I
though.
like-
They did that, but at first some of those games were only VR, and then later they patched it in that you could then, because they wanted
Yes.
to recoup money on those
Yeah.
games.
Star Trek
Right.
was one that did that, wasn't it? It was VR for a while, and then it became you could play it on normal.
Yeah, I don't know if they added that later, if it was a feature when it came out, but yeah,
No,
that's a good
it was a
example.
later edition on that one. I remember because
Same thing with like that Battlezone game and
Mhm.
Thumper. I think was like
Oh.
that.
yeah, but
It's good.
I-
It's good to give the games life.
I feel like that was a big push this generation that the PlayStation did. They tried something new with VR, and I don't think it quite pulled off. But I also think that they were close enough, and most people have a generally positive opinion of it, that they didn't, scare off
I
the
think-
next.
I think Sony
Time
thought
frame.
they were more successful than they thought they were going to be. Honestly,
Yeah,
there's a lot more
I-
games that
Mhm.
ended up being like the fact that Star Wars Squadrons is still, the whole Dreams
Yeah, I was
thing in
gonna
VR. Like, there's a lot of games that still decided to go VR. I mean, Sony must have like, oh, okay, we got a little.
And I like the fact that there are still titles coming out that have like VR content in them.
I
it's not-
think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
We're almost at the end of the generation, like you say, and there's still titles that come out with VR support.
Well, so with the PSVR, I think the only thing that's really held them back from generational leaps is the PlayStation 4. Like PCs have released lots, like several
Oh, yeah.
different models of each VR headset that's been out. Like the
Yeah.
Oculus has
And there's wireless
had
ones
several. The Vive has had several versions, and there's of course the ones that don't even require a PC because the technology's changed so much. But
Oh,
the
yeah.
the console market is not going to upgrade their VR headset every 2 years.
Having said that,
They're yeah,
Minecraft just came out on VR like last
yeah,
month.
yeah.
And
My
so my
daughter played
daughter's-
a little bit.
Yeah, my daughter played a little bit. Kind of made the sick, she said, but that's a whole other
Yeah, I
issue.
wonder. Yeah. geez.
Well, my daughter plays in creative mode, so
Yes, so does
whenever
mine.
you double jump, that second time you hit jump, you start flying. So you're like, ah,
Yeah.
it's just leaving the ground all of a sudden. It's kind of an odd feeling when you're not expecting it.
Cool. We should move on. Dave, good choice. Aaron, I believe you're next. Number 4.
All right. Yeah. So my number 4 is not exactly VR, but what they did for most games is kind of really cool in a sense was Hellblade, with the Senua's Sacrifice. That honestly, I think that game, even though it's not VR, they did something that
The sound.
other games, yeah, the whole stereo, the whole
It
interwoven.
was in,
yeah.
it was in VR on PC.
Oh,
wow.
it was.
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be trippy.
Yeah, I actually played a little bit of that game today because I wanted to see the new sound drivers that the PS5 had, and that sound still just blows my mind.
And it's not even just the sound; it's just what they add to the experience in the game. Yeah, you could play that game on its own without the headphones. Yeah, that's great. I tried that for a little bit. It wasn't the same. I put my headphones back on and just played through the whole way through that whole thing where she's like schizophrenic, but like here's the voices and stuff like that. That was honestly, I don't think a lot of games do that, and it was very different in a very, very good way. I enjoyed it.
At the beginning of this generation, I preferred having a big stereo system with surround sound speakers all around me. But now
Sure.
I prefer playing with headphones with all my games.
Right.
It just the sound clarity and the noise detection around you, the spatial audio, the binaural, sound and all that stuff is really, really amped it up. in these generations, where it can simulate 7.1 surround sound, and it's just really impressive, really impressive,
Right.
and it's just getting better. I'm excited to see where sound goes. Headphone technology is getting way better, and the consoles, all the consoles, are really jumping on top of that.
I got a
Because
quick
That's
I got a quick
yeah,
question for Aaron. So that game blew your mind. You gonna buy an Xbox so you can get the sequel since it's exclusive?
no, no. I'm putting my money aside for the PS5. Any little spare change I can put, it's going to PS5. I love the one. I feel like it should have ended at one because it looked like it ended at one. I don't think that should. I don't know how the sequel is going to turn out, but I don't really care because I feel like the ending was it ended there.
Can
That's
always
just
can always make a sequel.
true. But honestly, I feel like some things should just been left at where it is, not keep going.
Cool.
It's sometimes beat it dead.
Jared, number 4.
so number 4, Sony came out with their controller, and they pretty much just went with play, create, share. And the game that really pushes those boundaries, you guys already know what I'm going to say, is Dreams, because that encompasses everything they were pushing at the beginning of the console generation. And it's just a technology that blows every other creation tool that's ever been on console out of the water. Like in the past, there was RPG Creator, Fighter Creator, that kind of stuff, and it was very rudimentary and really complicated. And they, with Dreams, added these really easy to use tools that anybody can really just pick up and practice and get, you know, decent enough to make something work and be fun.
So where's the couch masterpiece, Jared? Have you created it
Yeah,
yet?
you're the one who has to do
No,
it.
yeah, right. Well, there's a problem. There's too many games.
Too
There's
many
too many
games.
games. Yeah. Thanks for that DLC.
Too many games.
It happens.
Yeah, too many darn games. Like if I was in my late teens, early 20s, when I, spent 90% of my life playing video games, and Dreams came out, I think it would be a way different story. Like, I don't know what things would be like if I could actually spend time in that. It might actually
Right.
unlock the creative side of my mind, because I've had a lot of ideas I'd love to do in Dreams. I just, want to play other things.
My hope for Dreams, I mean, obviously, I don't know how well it's done or how many people are in there creating, but with my PS or any of the consoles, that there would be a Dreams marketplace where I could try the games that people have created. Now, I don't need to get the
Yeah.
game to make the game and play the game and create my own content, but I would like to try out the content that other people have created. And if there was like a small marketplace where I could just pop on, download a tiny little file, play the
Yeah.
game, that would be
That would be pretty
awesome.
cool.
And I think that's something that Dreams should continue to pilot. I don't know. That's something I
So-
wish they would do.
How many months do you think it will be until it's free on PS Plus?
I don't know, but I don't want to. I don't know if I'm gonna play the game or create anything. I don't know. I just wish there was just
Yeah,
like a,
I'm not interested in the creation part. I want to see
or
what
even,
other
I'm not
people have
even
created.
that curious about the main campaign the game has. I just wish there was a place where I could just go to download a Dreams game.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of
Yeah.
people really wished it would be on PC, so people could create with the tools.
Right.
So it has a lot of potential, and I hope it's not locked forever. I think they have pretty bold dreams for it. No pun intended. But
You can,
Ah,
Media
Yeah.
Molecule really wants to take it places,
I could
and
see
I
Sony
think
putting it out there on PC. That would make them money. I mean, for all this
Oh yeah.
oh boy, howdy would it.
that would give it a second life for sure.
Well, the Game Awards is in a few days. Maybe we'll get some crazy announcements. Who knows?
All right, my number 4 on the PS4, God of War. That is my number.
good
The
choice.
the
Oh,
the
man.
That's on my list.
That's on mine,
basically
too.
the coming of age of Sony is in this game. It's like juvenile, immature Sony growing up to be mature Sony, going through some weird stumbling blocks in the middle, and then this game is just completely redesigned. It's this like faux no loading game where it's actually loading, but you never really know it's loading, and the story's
Yeah.
more grown up, and it's the better game to Red Dead because it won Game of the Year.
No, I would
Yeah.
totally buy that. It is a better, more
Um,
accessible game than Red Dead.
I never
Not,
liked.
not even that.
It's not even that. I never
Yeah.
liked God of War, and then I like loved that game. You know, like I like totally
Yeah.
turned a character that I
Yeah.
didn't care for into a character I cared for, and it's just it was not what I was expecting, and it just blew. I'm like, I knew what was gonna come from Red Dead 2. I knew it was, you know, I know those. I
Mhm.
did not
Yeah.
know really what to expect from God of War, and it was not what I was expecting, and it's just. I mean, I could see. I understand that being the flagship PlayStation game of the generation for sure. I just think some other games, you know, obviously anyway. But God of War, I think
Yeah.
it's a brilliant game. Just it does just how much growing up this industry has done is kind of remarkable. Like when you
Well,
look at that game, just looking at that game is wow.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
other than its looks and the camera, it's just also, I think, inspiration for other writers
Oh, totally is.
to really look at their characters and see where they could go instead of just rinsing and repeating the same gameplay, same story, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a really good template for other writers and developers to really rethink these characters if they think their game series are just kind of on the edge of dying, that it's really okay to rethink who that character has become over time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
And
the
the
last
the
time we
fans will
all.
grow with it.
I think it's the last time we all agreed on a game of the year.
Yeah, yeah, every single one of us, yeah.
Right. That game is amazing. Honestly, I can't wait for the sequel whenever that comes along. Because that little teaser with what's his name
Rag.
popping up, Thor outside his door.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm excited for that.
Supposedly it's coming out next year, so we'll see.
We'll see.
All
right,
the more reason to get a PS5.
I have my doubts. It hasn't been announced to be on PS4 like Horizon has, but there's speculation that it's going to be, so you might have a good chance to play it before you even have to worry about that.
I still want a PS5.
All right,
Spec-
Dave.
Speculative.
All right, Dave. Number 3.
Oh, so my next game is No Man's Sky.
buddy.
Oh,
To talk
that's
about,
a good one.
I mean,
Ooh.
I know I've said I don't. It's not for me, and I just don't seem to be able to get into it. I can see why people would get into it, and the other thing I have to say is, it was just amazing that it was developed by such a small team to begin with. But what's even more amazing is it last month they finally dropped a big, a
big
big
patch,
update.
right?
It wasn't very long ago. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
And they also implemented their PS5 upgrade.
Yeah, I mean they've supported that game through thick and thin. They've added VR. They've added
Multiplayer, true multiplayer.
Yeah, multiplayer DLC.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, the equivalent of like a sequel, if nothing, or many packs of DLC, and it's all been free. And I have to say that I think that's of the time spent
That's what
on one
developers should
game,
do.
developer, showing how a developer should support a game. No Man's Sky is the way forward. They've done an amazing job,
absolutely.
even though, as I say, the game doesn't really do much for me, and I just don't seem to be able to get into it. I can totally see why people can, and I also really respect that the developers didn't just drop it like a hot potato when it didn't kind of meet people's expectations to begin with.
Yeah, there's
I'm
definitely
glad
a
they kept
bunch.
going with that.
There's definitely a bunch of that, like in this like the overhype of video games that happened in
Yes.
this generation. Like it happened with Anthem, and just get hyped and then they fall. No Man's Sky is one of the games that we're gonna figure this out, pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, and
Yep.
we're gonna fix.
We have a good game in there.
Yeah.
It just needs tightening, and maybe a little more content around the edges, kind of thing.
Though
I
I was
think-
happy with the content, but
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I-
they didn't drop it. That's the amazing thing to me is they've released these massive updates that aren't just like minor tweaks. They completely changed the whole game.
Right.
Oh, totally did. Like what? More planets, better graphics, more stuff you could
Underwater
do.
life forms, other people. I mean, it's
Like they even made conditions for building things different, like throughout. 'Cause I remember in the beginning, you could literally pretty much take anything you find and just make antimatter fuel. Now it's like a giant process just to even get the component to possibly make it. And then to get other components to do that, and then combine it even to possibly antimatter potential fuel, and then that becomes something else entirely if you do it wrong. It's like, okay, you guys are making this a little bit too more realistic. Can you go back to kind of basically where you were?
They did add a creative mode.
Oh yeah, they did. That's true. They did. I
And
did
a
see that.
permadeath mode.
Yeah, and a
Oh yeah,
permadeath
that
mode.
too.
Yeah, and survival mode.
anyway.
Yeah,
I hope
all
so. I
kinds
hope
of
some
stuff.
of you guys have got some Switch games or something, because mine are all PlayStation.
Oh, No Man's Sky's on
No, mine-
Xbox and PC.
Yeah,
True, and I suppose Rocket League was all systems.
yeah. That was multi-platform.
Red Dead is on
Okay.
multi-platform.
Yeah, I'm thinking more
True.
Switch than anything. But
Uh,
you know,
Yes. Oh, that's gonna be hard.
of a generation? Nah, that's just more Nintendo. Nintendo doing Nintendo. Same old shit, different console. Aaron,
True.
number 3.
All right. So this one was kind of a bit of a toss-up, but I'm gonna have to actually go with the game that we all played all at the same time the most is Destiny, the OG Destiny, the one we played where we made like what 6 episodes of the show, just the Destiny show.
There's more than
What do you
6
think?
episodes.
more than that, and that
At
was
least,
my number
yeah.
one, honestly. When
Oh
it
yeah,
comes to games
Ian.
of the generation.
Ian's playing it right now.
Ah, so yes, okay.
Yeah, which I would like to remind you guys that this also was released on PS3 and Xbox 360.
It was, wasn't it? And then
It was.
they
That's
didn't.
right.
They
Yeah.
kind of dropped
It
the
was
had
at the
to.
very
DLC,
end though,
didn't
but
they?
yes.
There was a
Yes,
simul drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We played the
Yeah.
beta on the PS3.
We indeed.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
But no,
so
that
then-
to me that's definitely a game of the generation, just because you could play it kind of single player by yourself, and it was a lot of fun. Or you can
Yeah.
have even more fun with your friends, or you could play the player versus player experience. You know, there's just so much going. It tried to do all the things, and it actually did do them all pretty well. Once after the first month or two, once they figured out the loot drop type stuff. It was a
Oh,
bit
yeah,
rough
that was
at
a
that
clusterfuck.
first month when they changed the rules every day. It seemed like.
Yeah. And the one thing I liked about them also is they didn't give up on their anything in that, because I would have put Anthem on there if it wasn't for the fact that once you literally beat the game, there was jack shit to do. That pissed me off so much about that game. Spent this money on it, and after you beat it, that's it. There's nothing to do. Even though they say there's a lot to do, there really wasn't. But Destiny, even though you beat the game, there's still stuff to do. And on top of that, they actually support the game by putting multiple DLC. Even they had to pay for it, but at least they supported it. Kind of like No Man's Sky, but I just like the fact that they supported it, honestly, after you
Oh.
beat it, and it still felt fun.
I think the biggest accomplishment of Destiny for its fans was the implementation of a new thing, at least in shooters, was the raids.
Oh yeah, raids. I almost forgot about that for some reason.
Yeah,
No,
I
that
think
was
that's what keeps people championing this series. Since it had to be 2 games for some reason, is the people keep coming back for the raids. That's all they really want. Of course,
Yeah.
the different playlists and the public events, all that stuff. That's a lot of fun, but the hardcore fans just really have to dive in, and they have such impressive puzzles that people spend hours and hours and hours at a time just beating their heads against these things to try and figure it out.
Yeah.
It's like a completely new thing that a lot of other developers have really dug their teeth into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean MMOs have had raids and junk like that for a long time, but it's always been like an RPG kind of a click 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 thing.
Yeah.
I will have more to say later on in my list.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
Alright.
Of
geez.
course, I bet that's
Al-
a number.
Alright, Jared,
Uno.
what's your number 3?
Well, I didn't get to really speak about it, but No Man's Sky was my number 3 as well, Dave. Being the number 1
Sorry.
fan of that game series, or not
I was
series, but game. I've played each expansion, watched it grow, and I think what it really did to the game development world is show developers that there's hope. If people don't like their game at the start, there's still a chance that they can still implement their vision, because
right.
time is something that doesn't stop, and
Mhm.
it's really hard to meet video game fans, especially, meet their demands, what they want a game to be versus what the game's going to be when it comes out. I think that is a big lesson in the industry that No Man's Sky really championed and made it as good as possible. And everybody's like, "Why do you guys keep releasing stuff?" Because they keep doing it and
Mhm.
impressing everybody. Every time a new
Oh
update
yeah.
comes up, everybody just throws their hands up and they're like, "What am I supposed to do about this now? Come on."
I also think I also think every time they release an update, they actually get more players. It's not like, like Destiny probably started with how many million, and then every time they updated the DLC, if people dropped off. And
Yeah.
I
Well,
think it's
yeah.
almost the opposite with No Man's Sky. It's like every time they release a DLC, they get a few more players and bring back, as well as bringing back some of the people who've already played it.
Well, yeah, no doubt about losing players every time a paid update comes out. Like
Hmm.
I stopped playing Destiny because now I'm 4 passes behind. I'd have to buy all 4 passes to be caught up. And
Uh,
even then certain planets were dropped out, so I wouldn't be able to visit them anyways, as far as I know. Like, just for story bits, I don't think the planets would be there. Like, I don't even know how that would work. So I'm so confused about Destiny 2 now that I can't go back. It's hopeless.
Yeah.
Like, I installed it last night and played it today just to check it out on the PS5, whatever. But it's like it drops you in. You're already playing like the first intro mission to the new DLC, and then it's like two or three times before I even got to go to the tower. It's like, buy me now. Buy me now. It's throwing this ad in my face. And then I go into the tower and I look at this wall like, oh, yeah, buy these exotics. Oh, no, you can't. You have to have this pass. Oh, buy these exotics. No, you have to have that pass. You're just locked out
oh
unless you've been a
goodness.
fan through the whole thing. You have to hold their hand through this whole thing if you want to keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what the answer is. Did they charge more at the start so everyone buys it and then they can support it for longer? Or
Not that
Yeah,
not that I really
I'd
want to
be
get too far into this, but like, I mean, Bill and I talked a little bit about this on the last Destiny episode, but it's interesting that this is Bungie's choice to push forward harder on this vision, whereas we all thought when they were with Activision, it was Activision was the reasoning behind all of this.
yeah, we thought the publisher was the money,
But,
not money
but
grabber,
Bungie
but
obviously needs the money so bad to keep this game floating that they're
Yeah.
just trying to. It's just weird. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I
definitely
guess if
strange.
they're going kind of with the model of what World of Warcraft, other than paying a subscription, you still have to buy every single pack, as far as I know. But I just assumed like, oh, okay, after they release this one, you'll get this one free, blah blah blah. But that's definitely not the case. But
Nope.
back to No Man's Sky, every content update's been free, and I haven't even looked if you can buy stuff from the market in No Man's Sky. They do have a currency they can earn by playing online stuff. So I'm assuming you can buy some of that currency, but
Yeah.
I've never spent the time to look. But I think Dave was right that every time they release an update, more people get interested and purchase the game. I'd be interested to see like a retrospective of No Man's Sky in a few years, just talking
I'm
about
sure they'll be
like
there.
the process and the sales after each update and how that all worked for them to
yeah,
keep
it would be a
going. Yeah,
wonderful
because
insight to see how they actually made it all work financially.
yeah, and I think at the time it was released, it was like the best-selling game on PlayStation 4,
Yeah,
like
because
ever.
PlayStation backed that whole initial launch and helping in production of that or development.
Yeah, and there
of
were
that
only
game.
like 5 or 10 people working on it, wasn't there?
Mhm.
So it wasn't.
Yeah, it's
It
a
wasn't
very
a
small
big
team.
budget game.
And they got delayed because
Yeah.
their studio was flooded and all their gear had to. Yeah, there was.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Jeez.
That's
yeah,
a
but,
movie right
I
there. I
was.
hope
Yeah, I
someone
think
was
Yeah.
it,
making a
there'd probably
documentary.
yeah, right. There'd be a great documentary there. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see. I
It
would
has
watch it
potential.
for sure. But I think that's
Um,
about enough about No Man's
Man's
Sky.
Sky,
But
alright.
yeah,
Dave, number. Oh no, it's me.
What,
My number 3.
You
I
turn.
forgot my number 3. Oh, sorry guys. My number 3 is the king of all RPGs this generation and the father of them all. It would be The Witcher 3. It's the reason all these games are so giant and big and bloated. But Witcher 3 is the pinnacle of the RPG. It's the reason you have Breath of the Wild. It's the reason Assassin's Creed went to Origins and Odyssey. It is the game. It has these great side quests. It has great characters. It's beautiful.
It's the game I've never played.
It's the game, right? It's the game. A
Game
lot
I
of
never
people won't
played. I want
play,
to.
but
it's why other games are spending time on side quests.
Right. It's just exactly.
Yeah.
It's just it is, and you can see its DNA in all these games. I mean, Red Dead Redemption, and just all of this. Even the more RPG elements in God of War. It's just a lot of the side quests in God of War were really good. It's just that is The Witcher's 3, and that is, for better or worse, it's the game that
I agree with that.
did all this, and you see its long-running effects. And I really enjoyed the game. I played through. I got all 3 endings. Great character. It spawned a television show on Netflix. It's.
I did enjoy the television show, and that actually made me want to go back and perhaps try the video game.
It's a great game, and it's
I
always
need to
cheap.
watch that series.
Yeah. So Witcher
You
3.
can borrow my copy, Dave.
I actually have it physical too. So.
I don't know if I want to play it. It's
It's
almost
true.
like too big. Like that's the bit that scares me. It's like, man.
It's a big game. But yeah, I thought it was worth it. I had a lot of fun playing that game. I really enjoyed it. It has a good ending. It's good all the way through. It's just a solid, like a lot of other RPGs, even Odyssey and Assassin's Creed. They just a lot of bloat, and but yeah. So Witcher 3. I'm giving.
That's what keeps me away from a lot of games.
It's funny. It's not like one of my favorite games, but as far as the game for this generation, it is the reason a lot of these games are. I mean, some of them are really. Ghost of Tsushima is shorter, but really good. It borrows heavily in side quests, strong side quests. I mean, that's Witcher 3 right there. So, anyway.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is good.
So that's my number 3. Dave, number 2.
My number 2 is Anthem. Game of the generation. I'll tell you why. Because it was the biggest disappointment of this generation. I mean,
in a generation of disappointments, Mass Effect, Mass Effect Andromeda.
I think it
that's
beats
it.
Mass
That was it.
Effect Andromeda
I thought one was good at the end, at least.
by a long score. But yeah, it's the same studio, so I suppose we
the
could
death
just,
of BioWare. Should have just said the death of
we
BioWare.
could just call it the descent of BioWare, but yeah, I was watching a documentary on how that game was made, and it's like it's just an example of hubris and not having a plan, not having a game, even just kind of but by the same token, it is a very beautiful game, and the Iron Man suit was kind of cool, but
yeah,
it just felt like it was like a movie without a director. If you just asked a bunch of people to film random bits and then put it all together in a blender,
Justice
it
League.
didn't. Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't a coherent game. And then I love the fact that they had this roadmap to fix it, and then they're like, sod that, we'll just get rid of the roadmap.
It's still on their roadmap, though. They're still saying they're working on it.
Yeah, it's only because they want to try and
Believe
sell
it when I
Anthem
see it.
too. But yeah, that game made my list because it was the biggest. It was one of the most hyped games of the generation, and I feel like it was one of the most blatant letdowns of the generation. Like No Man's Sky we were just talking about. It didn't appeal to everyone when it came out, and maybe it was a bit overhyped, but there was still a game there, and it was still a lot of fun for people to play. But Anthem didn't succeed as a role-playing game, and it didn't succeed really as a loot shooter.
It's just meh.
But man, it was sure fun to play.
I'm surprised it came together how it did. I mean, I still had fun with it. So
Yeah, yeah.
I did.
I had a
that
bit of fun. I just
overworld
I
didn't
was
fun
think
till
so
I beat
good.
it.
I didn't think there was much there. It was a very bare bones effort. It felt like it felt like basically they'd spent 6 years developing it, figured, oh shit, we gotta rush this, we gotta get this out. And they just hadn't spent enough time actually developing the story and making it so it was a 40-hour game instead of kind of a mishmash of little bits and bobs.
Budgets and time
Definitely
restraints.
a mishmash.
I don't know about time restraint. The time restraints is BioWare's own fault. Didn't they start working on it 6 years before it was released? I mean, they had plenty of time. There was just no strong lead. There's no leader there, as far as I can tell. That was no one had a vision, or it was kind of the opposite of Death Stranding. No one had a vision
Right.
of what they wanted the game to be. It
they
was
had,
like,
yeah.
well,
I mean,
let's try and
I
a
saw
little bit of Destiny.
I saw what I've seen the thing where Dave is talking, because it's basically the idea where like they had the flying mechanic, and then the EA president was like, well, make a game with this, and then that's what their directive was. It's like, well, what do we do? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Anyway, I just feel it's a game of a generation because it was like the big blockbuster movie that just totally bombs.
But there's a lot of games. I mean, this is one of the bombs, but there was a lot of these kind of shooter, looter, and other kind of, games that just bombed. There's a lot of bombs this year. It's a weird, or this generation. It's kind of
True,
interesting.
but I felt like that was the most vacuous one of the lot.
For sure. But
Oh yeah.
There was very little game actually hidden in the pretty wrapper.
I did get an aluminum case. It was a very pretty aluminum case.
I'm
You
just glad
did
I
get
bought
that
my
case.
aluminum case for $5, and
Yeah, that's right.
so
you
the
did.
game only cost
yeah.
cost me like 45 instead of 60 or whatever.
Oh jeez.
all right,
I
Aaron.
pre-ordered it, yeah.
Aaron, number 2.
All right. My number 2 is Horizon Zero Dawn for PS4, and that game was just, god damn, that game was good.
And PC now.
I'm glad. Oh yeah, and that's right, it is for PC finally. But no, that game was all around one of the perfect storms. It's a unique story, fun gameplay, graphics are just on point. That game definitely set a precedence for anything coming in the years after that as well. I feel like for its type of story, a lot of games feel like had to step it up after that.
My only fault with that game was it took a lot of things that had already been done well and did them well.
Yeah.
I don't really
True.
feel like it was. I mean, I really loved it, and I really loved the story and the mechanics, but I didn't feel like there was anything that new in it. It was just taking the best bits of like a lot of games and putting them into one.
Yeah, they did all the things really good.
And that's the only reason they didn't make my list, was honestly,
I think one of the things it does show, though, too, is Sony's faith in letting their first-party studios make something not of their franchise go off and do new ideas. And you see that a lot with, Uncharted, or Naughty Dog makes Last of Us. I guess that was earlier, but then you have, obviously, them making Horizon Zero Dawn, and then Insomniac makes Spider-Man, but what's the...
Infamous
guys. What is their studio's name?
Oh, Infamous.
Not Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch making Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah.
Oh, it was Sucker Punch, yeah.
So, Sony has a lot of faith in these, single-player, first-party games. That
Sony does they have done well this most generations in introducing new franchises that are actually people want to play.
Especially in a generation that was so focused in multiplayer, for Sony to like double down on single-player games was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't give up on the single-player game, because everybody was saying single-player was dead, and Sony really ramped that up and showed people that they were absolutely wrong.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So Horizon for Aaron. Jared, what's your number 2?
Well, Dave mentioned it as a whole, but Astrobot Rescue Mission, because
VR.
Astrobot Rescue Mission was like Astro's Playroom. It was a showcase for what VR would be really good at, and just showing perspective and different controls for just the basic, I don't know, just the viewpoint of a character being in VR wasn't the only thing that you could do in VR. You could actually show the whole world through the camera of what it was a robot that you're following Astrobot around with. You know, you didn't have to be first person and gritty or anything like that. It showed that VR didn't have to be a serious murder simulator, you know, like everybody was releasing, hey, look, you got guns and this, guns and that. And they're like, we got this cute robot. We're gonna make a really spectacular platformer out of this. And they succeeded on every level. I love that game. My daughter's actually playing through it right now, and she is just having the time of her life. She loves it.
Awesome. Very cool. My number 2, Aaron already mentioned it. It is Rocket League. Dude, I don't know. This game has lasted. Not only is it this generation, but it's lasted this entire generation, and it has gone through. It's gone through its original model, which was the free, but $20 version, and it had some updates. Then it went through the season pass generation, where it was offering a season pass, and then it's now in its final form, where it's free to play. I mean, this game. I mean, we don't even know if we're ever gonna get a new one. This game just keeps going and going and going. It has still like so many people play. Like the player count, to my knowledge, has not gone down on this game. It's basically the official. It's basically the official couch co-op game of game night. I mean, we don't always play, but we generally usually play it. And there's a lot of games that you guys will be playing that I don't want anything to do with. But if Rocket League comes out, I'm generally always gonna play. It's just such. It controls so well. It's the physics are so much fun. It's such a I mean, if we played the original way back on PS3 once, and it's just kind of a mess of a game.
And yeah,
But man,
I don't even remember what it was called. It was some wild, crazy
Rocket
name.
Battle something arena. But just it is such a fun game, and you get so competitive even when you're not really that competitive, and it's just it's so much fun. And we've spent so much time playing it. And there's a lot of good memories of kicking each other's asses. I don't know. It's just or kicking other people's asses. Or it's definitely a game also that, you know, it's not so much fun playing it by yourself as it is more fun playing with other people. And I don't know.
It would have been interesting, like just seeing an alternate reality to see. I have a feeling it would have been just as popular if it wasn't free on PlayStation Plus when it launched. It might have been a little bit of a slower uptick to get people to buy it, but I think in the end it still would have been just as popular because it's just a very exciting and fun game to play, and anybody can pick it up and learn how to play it.
It has
real
a
easy.
simple loop. You know?
But if you're an advanced player, you can really, really ramp it up. So the really professional players, it's a completely different show. People love to watch that stuff.
That's the other thing. It found a whole like professional audience. Like it's
like
it's an esport. It's a whole esport. I don't even think they were really. I mean, I'm sure that's what they wanted, but I don't think they were expecting it. You know, I don't know. It's an amazing. And then all the little, you know, I got it for free, and then you know I've bought some of the licensed Batman car and the Fast and the Furious. I like the fact
I've never been locked out of it.
Oh yeah, you'll never get locked out of it.
I can't think of the company that published or made it, but
Psyonix.
It was like
Psyonix.
It was like a side project. Like they didn't really want to finance it. They just were dinking around on it, weren't they? Like we're gonna make
I think
this,
they wanted to make the sequel, but they were doing a lot of third party work, and they wanted to get out of third party work.
Yeah, they were just kind of doing it in between projects or something like that. It's just
and
the story behind that game is really, really interesting.
It's funny, like that documentary by No Clips or whatever. They talk about like when it went up for free on PlayStation, and then just how many people were downloading and playing it. They had to keep resetting. They had people buy the servers when they would just to reset them when they were going down, like just before they would go down or something. They were like timing. They had not enough equipment to support that game at that long. Like they were not expecting how
Yeah.
big it got. It's pretty funny how they. In fact, it's like his wife or something. Like I don't know. They were like trying to figure out ways to fix it while they were telling her to do all this like resetting on servers and shit. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, what a wild success story.
Anyway, I think
Oh, yeah.
that's one of the great
Absolutely.
stories,
Yeah.
and it's just a great game. It's still a great game.
That would be the second one in the documentary trilogy, wouldn't it? With No Man's
No,
Sky.
there is a great one. There's a great No Clips documentary. I
Oh, I'll
recommend.
have to watch that then.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. No Clips. There's a Rocket League documentary. It is great. Tells their whole story. Anyway, yeah, that's my game. I think. Anyway, awesome game. So good.
Oh no, it's bad.
We're doing ones. Dave, what's your number one?
Oh, my number one's Destiny. I
Oh.
know we've already talked about it, so there isn't actually that much more to say. But I have to say, as a game, when I first got my PlayStation 4, it really showed off what the system could do graphically, sound and gameplay wise. I've always liked the Halo games, and Bungie, the guns just feel good and they're memorable, and the weapons on it feel like they've got some heft. I mean, just before you even
Yeah,
get
no,
into like
totally.
the story and the gameplay, it's as repetitive as it could be, there is a fun mechanic in there, and sometimes in the repetitiveness, especially when you're using your new weapons. And I know Ian hates this game. I can see him like shaking his head, but it's I just have to say, it's the only thing I didn't like about it was the how the DLC would lock you out of particular areas or things, and I
That's so
understand why.
stupid.
I would have preferred less intervals of DLC. Instead of
I'm
3 months, 6 months.
Totally.
There was only 4 DLCs for Destiny for however long it was out.
I think it was out for. So I suppose it was out for 4 years, but didn't the first one come out after about 6 months?
Maybe.
I think
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't remember the timeline, but I'm just thinking of all the good times you had, Dave, doing drunk raiding.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, we had some good old times,
You
and
need raiding party.
just so much happiness came out of the game. Like
Yeah.
while a lot of parts of it could be frustrating, being with your friends and dealing with that kind of stuff together really brought a lot of people together.
It's just a very. I mean, now it's like I can understand why Ian and Bill and some of the other guys have gone back to it, because it's a very comforting game mechanic. It's still fun, but it's also like watching your favorite TV show, greatest hits, but there's still just enough challenge there that it's not a complete walkover.
For sure.
So
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Well, I think a lot
That
of
is
it
a good
also
game.
for me is that we're getting to do these raids on challenge, and then we're getting to do the new raids. So there's a lot of new content that we're just scratching the surface of. So it's all very new. There's these, and then we're doing some of the kind of more complicated weapons quests that were a little more secretive, and you wouldn't know how to do it it's like a more of a puzzle. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that we're doing. It's just different and kind of.
I thought about getting the whole package, even though it's $60 just to play with you guys, and then it's like time commitment, anything. But yeah, I can totally see the attraction that you didn't do all the raids the first time round, and there's
sure.
just
Right.
it's a fun game. It works really well. It's a good game to play.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, number one.
Generation.
I think you already know what this one's gonna be. You said it earlier, number 4, Ian, and it's God of War. That game, I can't say much more about it. You already took pretty much every word I had right out of my mouth in a good way, of course. But that game is just perfect storm.
You finally got your RPG God of War, you know.
I did. I'm
Yeah.
happy about that. But no, that game is just. I can't say anything more about it. It's perfect. I can't wait for the sequel when it comes out. Hopefully, when I get a PS5, it's there. I'm just looking forward to it overall. There's not much more that can be said about that game. It shows what you can do with a game and everything they did, which I didn't know the whole. They did it all in one shot. They didn't do loading like they faux loading screens. I didn't know all the stuff I knew about that game, and they amazing. That's all I got to say about it.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I just got cab fare for how good I did the job on the CEO of the company talking about it. But I'm beat. I'm gonna go nap now.
All right, God of War. Jared, what's your number one?
Yeah, I don't have too much more to say about it, but mine also was God of War. But I think it was a good example to other developers about a secondary character that you don't have to babysit. Because I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
that was
Yeah,
another
there
thing
were
I didn't think about.
there was a couple points where he had to deal with his boy or whatever. He got captured or whatever, but it really wasn't a big issue. Like in a lot of games, it's like you
Yeah.
have to really drop things and go take care of your second
Mm-hmm.
party, and then if you take too long, game over screen pops up, and it's you have to restart the whole thing. But he could take care of himself.
Resident Evil 5.
And that I really hope all developers take a hint from that, because nobody wants to babysit a character in a game.
Oh, totally.
For sure. Unless you're in the Last Guardian or.
Oh. Nah, you did have to do babysitting now.
Okay, my number one is Destiny. I've been playing a lot of Destiny lately, and it's given me a good time to reflect on Destiny. I did really love Destiny, and then obviously, like most of us, I kind of burnt out of it. But in between that time, you have Division 1 and 2, you have Anthem, you have the Avengers, you have all these, even Borderlands to an extent. You have, it kind of created the genre. I mean, even Borderlands was already out, but it created this looter shooter multiplayer thing that
They took it a little farther with the hubs and the
right,
raids.
and the
They
whole
did.
thing, and I mean, it was something that became that's what everyone was chasing. Even Destiny chased it into Destiny 2, which I don't think is that good of a game. And that's why I didn't get into Destiny. I mean, I know a lot of people liked it, but one of the reasons I'm now back in Destiny 1 is because I honestly believe it's the better game. Like, having played Destiny 2 on PS4, playing it on Stadia again with Bill, and just not having it ever really grab me, not ever having really that good of a time with it, and then coming back and just, it's nostalgia for sure, but I think it feels better. It's not as complicated with its questing and its fucking million currencies. It's just,
yeah, it's a fine line between too much
Right.
complication.
Right.
and I think that's a lot of stuff that plagues these other games. Like the Division was pretty good, but it's just very kind of blah to me. It's not Destiny, where it's just like this sci-fi exciting world. It's just this boring New York or whatever it is. It's just this kind of boring blah place.
I
I
like the fact that you could look at Destiny and tell which area or planet you're in. Like, they had a distinct, the moon was very washed out, and Mars, obviously, and Venus.
Right.
there is no other game out there where you can walk through an area and everybody will look and be like, "Whoa, what armor is that?"
Oh, right. And
The
that's not,
cosmetics
and that's-
were out of this world for
right,
Destiny.
and that's very important. Fashion becomes. I mean, one of the games that's an honorable mention is Warframe, and that's a very fashion-driven game. But that
Yeah.
game was a very game of this generation in a sense that kept growing. But fashion in Destiny, fashion in Destiny 2 is awful. Like you're just ugly all the time. At least my character, I never felt the armor. You know, I'm nitpicking shit that I already talked about in the Destiny episode again, so I don't want to get too in the weeds with this shit. But I just feel like it's a game that lasted this entire generation with me, and how can I
Yeah.
not? That's the same thing with Rocket League. These are two games I've played from the beginning of this generation
Yeah.
to the end of this generation, and I think that's what makes
Totally.
them games of the generation, because they kept their hooks in me. They they still have and are doing things that are new or are good, and no other game has really quite beat that. And that's like a pinnacle, you know, that other games need to look at. And a lot of games failed, and these games I still think, you know, kind of shine bright. And I feel like that's I guess in a weird way that's my definition of a game of a generation, you know. So
Yeah, well,
That's true.
and Destiny was okay with bringing RPG elements into the shooter genre, and I think that's what made it really successful. Because MMOs have been bringing cosmetics and different outfits and builds and all that stuff in for decades. At this point, you know, it's been like 20 years since they've been giving really cool costumes if you do this mission or this quest or whatever, and it took that long for us to get it in shooters.
it's funny too. You mentioned builds, Jared. Like a lot of RPGs, I just build a character and never really deal with switching the build. This return to this Destiny, this time, Bill and I, we've had to mess with our builds, go in and do switch things and change the build. We spent a whole stream with this guy who was a glitcher, and we just were glitching around inside the Vault of Glass, and we had to switch all our builds to like high agility and just all to get into these areas without having to ever fight. It's just
Huh.
next level weird garbage that like
Yeah.
just something new that Bill and I, okay, we'll check it out, and we just spent like 2
That's what you
hours.
were doing the other night.
We were just glitching around in Vault of Glass, trying to fly across. Like it's just kind of amazing some of the shit you can do. I don't know, legitimately or not legitimately, but but builds. I've never really played much with the builds, and you kind of start playing with that more, and it is way more RPG than you ever kind of give it credit for to begin with. But
Well, that's something a lot of video game fans really appreciate is numbers. I don't know why, it's just like a good stat sheet, and watching numbers go up and balance them, and you check off all these little marks.
Yeah.
And Destiny does that really well.
Having said that, the other thing about Destiny is it's really easily accessible as well.
oh, for sure,
You don't need to go to that depth if you don't want to.
for sure.
You can still. And I think that was one of the things about Anthem versus Destiny. It's like when you get a new weapon in Destiny, it's a big performance increase, or you know, you might trade off ammo for like firepower, but all the ones in Anthem were like, yeah, it's 1% more powerful than the last one I had.
True. That's another thing that Bill really likes about Destiny versus Destiny 2. Just the commotion when you finish a public event, and the amount of, you know, grandiose like congratulations you get from beating
Yeah.
it, whereas Destiny 2 is just kind of a doodle. Good job.
But even then,
Right.
for the like maybe 2 people listening to this that haven't played Destiny, they can get Destiny 2 for free
It's true.
and play through a lot of content. I really like Destiny 2, and I think you'll get your value out of a free edition of Destiny 2
Oh, for
because
sure.
it's a hell of a lot of
Right.
fun.
It's not that it's an awful game. It just doesn't click with me like that first one does. So,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people out there that
Yeah.
feel that way. But that's the list. That's our games of a generation, fellows.
So quick
Yeah.
final question.
Yeah.
System of the generation.
Well, that's
I
Yeah,
just
that's
wondering
easy.
if anyone was going to say Switch. That's all.
I mean, the Switch has its positives, but it's not. It's like I keep staring at my Switch, like my daughter's using the TV or something like that, and I look at the Switch, I'm like, I don't really want to play anything on it. But
That's
I mean,
how I feel, really.
like I find my Switch best for like indie games, side-scrolling platformers, Metroidvania kind of stuff. And I mean,
Right.
there's other games I played on it early on, but now I just can't really get down to play anything big on it. Like
So we're
I'm
all
borrowing
voting
a game from
Xbox then.
Ian.
You know, yeah. But
That's
there's
right. Xbox.
but you look at that Switch and like what games really changed anything from what like it doesn't really
I
offer
think
anything new. I mean, the Switch itself is something new,
Uh,
being able to console and then portable. So you could have gone the VR route, like it's a piece of something that's like, you know, but like none of the games really did something mind blowing.
I don't know. I think a
no.
lot of people would make the argument that Legend of Zelda added like this level of freedom where you could climb anything and go
On a
anywhere. But
Nintendo game,
I,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then the problem with that was the actual like, oh, I bumped into a battle encounter and I didn't enjoy any of it. Like I
Yeah.
didn't like that part of it.
Exactly.
I mean, the world was beautiful. I really enjoyed exploring, but then I'd bump into battles and I didn't really like it. Uh, it wasn't my type of Zelda. I like 3D Zeldas,
I'm so,
but I prefer a different type of battle.
I'm
You
sorry,
know,
Nintendo fans, but we've been playing open world games since PS2. So,
yeah,
hello.
yeah. I think they've
That's not
Yeah.
done
new.
No.
better.
That's
Oh, they kind
old.
of pioneered the open world. I mean, they like Ocarina of Time. You know, you could look up. Oh, I can walk to that mountain. You know, they kind of pioneered that whole aspect to that. But uh, and that Breath of Wild came out, and they had that, and it was great, except for again the battles. I just didn't like it, and a lot of people got mad that they deviated from having like big dungeons, and their dungeons were like what 3 or 4 of them, something like that. But then there was a
Yeah.
bunch of puzzle rooms, Tomb Raider style.
Ugh.
You know, one game, a
Yeah.
couple honorable mentions, and that we probably, you know, obviously this didn't get mentioned at all, but the Battle Royale game, PUBG, Fortnite, you know, then it's Super Child,
Oh yeah,
Call of Duty Warzone. I mean, these are huge games. This is probably a genre of the generation. I spent
no
quite a bit of time playing Fortnite with Ryan, so I mean, honorable mention there.
So the other
Apex Legends is a
obvious
good
one is
honorable.
worst game of the generation off the top of your head.
Mm,
jeez.
uh,
I don't know. I mean,
Anthem.
on launch,
You have to
Well,
define. You have to define what your worst game means, because like watching Super Sick One play Red Dead Redemption 2, I would swear he would think that is the worst game of this generation.
I suppose most disappointing game of the generation.
I,
I don't feel like I bought
I was disappointed
any
with Mass Effect.
games.
I was disappointed with Mass Effect.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that.
I
I
didn't
liked
finish it.
I mean, because I thought
I
it was
beat.
like
That
the
was awful.
gameplay was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun playing the game, and the story was fine. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted. It's not what people wanted because it didn't have familiar characters, but it was
I
it was
like the new
still
idea.
pretty good. They could have done without some of the
I,
vehicle driving. It didn't have to be open world
It was
like everybody was
huge. That
doing.
game was
no.
fucking huge. It's
But
overwhelmingly
Yeah, it was a
huge.
beast.
I don't know. I like the battles and the skills and stuff like that. But I don't remember playing any games this year or buying any games this year that I was like angry or pissed that I bought them. Like I think
Mm,
overall games have been really awesome this generation. Yeah, there's been games that didn't live up to people's expectations, but I think that's a problem in the gaming community is people's expectations.
Yeah, I
too
wonder what
picky.
it'll be next that we all get carried away with.
Yeah, I would like to think that I have my expectations set pretty well when I buy a game.
I think one of the other honorable mentions I have would be Monster Hunter World. Just
That's a good one too.
that game was
Woo.
really surprising to me, and how much time I spent with it.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's just a different type of game that not only was it from the Monster Hunter world, but also how much it pushed the Monster Hunter world, like from being so not so janky and weird to being more friendly in a sense.
Oh yeah.
That's a game that made use out of the open world formula. Because
Oh
their
yeah.
older games would have like a small screen, you'd be fighting a monster, and then all of a sudden, oh, you rolled into the next screen, loading. And then, oh, okay, I have to roll back. Oh, loading. oh, the monster went to a different area. I have to track him again. Shit, loading. Yeah, so it moved from that into something viable that was actually a hell of a lot of fun. I mean, Ian and I both spent almost a couple, like 200 hours in the
Yeah, I
game. I
did
mean, we both
spend.
spent a lot of time.
That game was fun.
Wow.
Yeah, but I want to get back into it eventually if
I
Iceborne
couldn't get
gets
into that
fun
game.
enough. But yeah, Aaron tried it. He had fun, but it just it didn't work into his schedule very well.
What, Monster Hunter?
Yeah.
Oh man, I got pretty far in that game. I was going after like the final monsters and stuff like that. I felt like, but it's
Yeah.
hard to do multiplayer with people.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say the
multiplayer.
biggest disappointment. Yeah, I mean, I did find people to help me whenever I couldn't get you guys, but
Yeah, but
I was
Monster
gonna
Hunter is
say,
a good one. One that I want to point out. Your wife's probably playing it right now, Ian. But the formula for MMOs, I think, was done right with ESO when it comes to subscription models, where the whole game is free. You can play whatever you want, but you don't have like unlimited storage, and there is paid DLC and stuff like that. But if you want to subscribe for a monthly fee, then you get everything, like as much storage as you want. You get all the DLC and all that, everything, without having to buy like big expansion packs. Like a lot of MMOs will force you to buy the expansion packs and all that, but they just have their one subscription model where you get everything included. Everything just comes with it, but also you get almost like all the main story bits in the game for just buying the game. You can buy the main updates and the DLC and stuff like that, but you don't ever have to pay a subscription fee if you don't want to. And
that is
I think that was done right, and the game's actually a lot of fun.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any other games you guys want to throw out before we wrap up?
I'm gonna say the one game that really was kind of a letdown, and I'm surprised no one said it was oh god, the Star Wars Battlefront game. Not two, just one.
Yeah, actually, you're right.
That one was I thought it was gonna be a lot more than just multiplayer. I thought it was gonna be like there's gonna be a story, like not a big story. I mean, a big story, fucking Star Wars, of course. But just that game was just meh. I bought it. I was thinking, oh, it's gonna be so exciting, and I play it. I'm like, what the hell is this?
I think
Ah.
that game was a hard lesson for Activision at the start. It took them several years to figure out EA. It took them several years to figure out that abusing DLC in the wrong ways is really going to piss off a lot of people, including Disney.
Oh
And
yeah.
so that's, I think, why Star Wars Squadrons does not have any DLC or paid DLC or anything like that. It's because they just got hammered so hard with how egregious their paid DLC was, even like giving people perks in battle against others that were not using those
Mhm.
paid pieces of DLC. So I think they learned a really hard lesson to hopefully change in the future, where a DLC isn't something that's in contention with every new game.
Well, they got it right though after that first one, dude. The battle, with the Battlefront 2, they did a good job on doing that one after their little fuck up on the first one.
Well,
And then later on, well, did much better than the first one. I'll say that much.
the second one was a bigger fuck up though, with their loot
Right,
boxes.
but
Yeah, but that was
right, but then they
partly time.
did a good job of doing a story mode though.
So loot boxes are an interesting thing from this generation because there's several
Oh.
countries that have deemed them gambling and illegal because of the age groups that play them.
Yeah, because like
okay.
Overwatch and all those games.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
in some
I forgot about the loot
I
box
think
thing.
some
I don't know how.
European countries they've actually outlawed loot boxes, or if they do have some form of loot box, they have to show exact numbers of your chances to get stuff. So that it's been like a thing that just keeps changing and growing into different things.
But a lot of games still have them. It's weird. Like
Even
Destiny
Rocket League introduced it.
Rocket League, but Destiny still has loot boxes in it. It's funny. You get these little Eververse boxes that
Yeah,
you can buy
yeah.
with real money, or sometimes you win them. It's really weird.
It is. So I don't know. I guess if it's just like a huge Activision or EA game or something like that, like a sports game or something like that, people get really annoyed. I don't know.
It's funny though,
I've never.
they don't go after FIFA, you know, even though FIFA's probably more to blame for that shit than any other game. They got it
Yeah.
up the wazoo, but everyone
funny.
loves FIFA, so they just leave it alone.
DLC has
Right.
come a long way from the first DLC ever released on console as Horse Armor. Wasn't that in Oblivion or something
Oblivion
on Xbox?
and Skyrim or something.
Yeah, I think it was Oblivion. It was like Horse Armor or something like that. It was the first paid DLC people could buy on console. And it's come a long way. Cosmetics are still a major role in DLC, and DLC has really pushed its boundaries this generation. And speaking of the DLC in this generation, a lot of that became huge because video games are really expensive to create, and the price hadn't gone up for so long that this new generation, a lot of the games are going to start being $70 in the next year or so. Even some right now on the PS5 are 70.
The counter argument to that is that the games used to be made on cartridges, which were a lot more expensive to produce, but also like a game nowadays sells millions upon millions of copies, not hundreds of thousands of copies.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like they are more expensive to produce, but they're also consumed a lot more than they were.
Yeah, but
So,
I don't know.
wonder
It's
how
really
much-
it's a really weird balancing act between that because games used to take like 6 months or less to make on cartridge days.
It's like a group of like
Or
10
maybe
or
even-
something.
Yeah, with very small teams. Now there's hundreds, thousands of people on teams, even outsourced teams doing just art. Like here, make this leaf, make these plants. You know,
Yeah,
and
make
whole
all the
teams to
buildings
do
or
this kind
whatever.
of stuff. And it's costing these companies millions and millions and millions of dollars just to make a game. And like a new IP takes as little as like 6 years to start from the ground and go up if they're making their own engine and stuff like that. So it's a big burden on these publishing companies.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah, of
4K.
course. Well,
AK,
if
baby.
crunch
Oh, yeah.
is going to get obliterated, yeah, I'm okay with waiting for games. I just really hope that crunch
Well,
is.
let's hope they release Cyberpunk so all those poor programmers can get a break, because haven't they been on crunch since
Yeah, go
since,
take a
like,
nap, guys.
the last year?
Oh
Yeah.
goodness, yeah.
Yeah,
It's coming
yeah,
out.
it was rough.
Oh, you're exhausted.
You guys have anything else you want to before we get out of here? You guys
I think I'm good.
good? Good. That was fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Video games.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you just want us to stop talking, so you can
I
do
may have
your.
played a video game or
closing.
two. Yeah.
Well, we've been doing this for an hour and a half, so I don't know.
Oh,
Wait.
geez, yeah, time just kind of flew by.
I just wanted to make sure you guys
Yeah.
were okay. I can sit here and do this all night. I just being thoughtful.
Yeah, it's nice chatting, but I got a family to attend to and get to bed.
Yeah.
Cool. All right then. Well, I wanna thank all of you for listening, and I want to thank the guys for joining me on the couch tonight.
Always.
Yeah.
And remind
course.
you that you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Couch Co-op shows all one word.
No hyphen.
You can also find us on Twitch at The Couch Co-op Show and YouTube at youtube.com/MilkmanPictures. And I don't know what we're doing next on the next show, but we'll be back in a week, or something will be back in a week. And until then, everybody be excellent to each other.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Let me play the
Be-
closing.
What's that?
Couch Co-op. Couch Co-op.
You gotta find a way to play
Uh,
that through our headsets when you're doing the outro and the intro.